I'm sure you know. And also, let's type it on my own. We can all type it on our own. We can still do it. That's how you record, not the data, right? Yeah. You can't stop these. Yeah. You just do this whole thing. Let's pick our insurance policy and. Killer just making on the right. So they back to. Looks like that. We good?
All righty, guys, we're good to go. Our IT guy got us all set up. Seems like a big pain to get to this. So, Dean, it's on you.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for Springfield Township, and this meeting is being conducted virtually. It is live streamed on YouTube for the public to be able to watch. There will be no public participation here in the meeting room by reason of the health orders responsive to the COVID-19 pandemic. We do invite members of the public to participate by providing us with comments or questions and by submitting them to the trustees by way of email. Obviously, you can do it by regular mail if you want to submit it to the attention of Ted. If email, it's tedw@springfieldtownship.us. That's tedw@springfieldtownship.us. We will address those comments or questions at the next public meeting. We do begin our meetings with a pledge of allegiance, and I'm going to ask the other members here in attendance to join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mrs. Price, for the purposes of the record, or Mrs. Price, will you call the roll?
Yes, roll call, Mrs. Davis,
Here.
Mr. Young,
Here.
Mr. DeLauro.
Here.
I move initially that we dispense with reading of minutes of all prior meetings and approve those minutes to date.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next, I would move to approve payment of bills and payroll as prepared by our fiscal officer, subject to audit.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis. Roll call,
I'm
Mrs.
sorry,
Davis.
I couldn't hear.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Young, Mr. DeLauro.
I think we're having a little transmission difficulty here. Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Young votes yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Okay.
I also want to acknowledge receipt of the fiscal officer's October report subject to audit, and I move acknowledgement.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next, I move to approve the insurance committee's motion that the medical insurance health care plan currently in effect utilizing Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield with an HRA provision to be renewed for the calendar year 2021 with the Anthem premium rate increase of 3% over the rates in effect for 2020.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Mr. DeLauro, how do you vote?
Yes.
Next, I move to approve the proposal from J. Bowers Construction in the amount of $24,675 for the new administrative employee entrance, and that the same be paid from Fund Line 2272-120-730. This, Mr. DeLauro, as our owner's rep, you want to comment on what this involves and the sources of funding?
This is to make the new employee entrance in the bridge area, and it includes a new concrete sidewalk and an entrance door, along with some repositioning of the facial recognition and temperature sensors. This is all due to the COVID funding from the federal government. So this is not any of our normal budgeted money from the township funds. This is appropriated from the monies from the federal government due to COVID relief.
And to add to that a little bit, part of the reason we're putting that employee entrance over there is the goal is to separate the public from our own employees and add another level of protection as they come into the building.
we're having a little bit of difficulty.
I say to add to that, that part of the reason for that employee entrance over there is to separate the public from the employees and where they enter the building and add another level of protection for us.
So social distancing will help to keep our safety forces healthier. And
Correct.
also, we will mandate them, their entrance to the employee, that their temperature will be checked. And I assume that equipment also reminds them to be masked.
That is correct.
Okay. Did we have a motion and a second and a vote?
Who seconded that?
I will second it.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
Yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next is a motion, and I'll make the motion to approve transfer of funds per an attachment as Exhibit A to our agenda for proper documentation of expenditures. And this particular exhibit, which is a matter of public record and is available to anyone requesting it, indicates the expenditures that are being made from the coronavirus relief funds that have been provided through the county, and in particular are provided for purposes of enhancing procedures for keeping our employees healthy, also committed to issues involving the payroll of safety workers. Have I correctly identified the categories of information, Mr. Weinsheimer?
Which you're on?
Exhibit A, the,
Yes, that is correct. I'm sorry.
okay.
Yes.
I move that we approve the transfer of the funds per that exhibit.
Second.
second,
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next, I move that we adopt the resolution for advancement of funds from payment of township's local taxes for the tax year 2020 from the county fiscal office to use the money for purposes of 2021 calendar year expenditures. This particular resolution directs the fiscal officer for Summit County to advance funds on a regular basis. And it doesn't increase taxes that have not already been approved. It simply evens out the transmission of tax money so that we can continue operation smoothly. I would move adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next, I would move to adopt the resolution attached to our agenda here to accept Government CARES Act 2020 funding and authorize the encumbrance and expenditure of said funds by the fiscal officer. These are funds that have been authorized as a part of the government's attempt to provide additional funding for payroll support, particularly of safety services, as a result of the coronavirus pandemic.
Second.
second,
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next, for the police department, I move to approve the in-house posting and screening process to promote a full-time police sergeant to the position of police captain. The applicant screening to proceed is outlined in township policies 400.07 and 200.09 and other policies adopted by the township as necessary.
second,
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Next, I move to approve the in-house posting and screening process to promote a full-time police officer to the position of police sergeant. The applicant screening to proceed is outlined in township policies 400.07 and 200.09 and the collective bargaining agreement with our employee union.
Second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro, I think you have some members or some motions for our consideration for other departments of the township. Is that correct?
Yes. For the fire department, I move to approve the quote from Fire Safety Services in the amount of $2,077.50 to be paid from Fund Line 2191-230-500 for the annual repair of the SCBA's, which is the self-contained breathing apparatuses and face pieces.
I would second that.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes. For the road department, I move to approve the quote from A1 Concrete Leveling in the amount not to exceed $3,600 to fill voids under 5 slabs of concrete on Connecticut Court Drive, and that would be paid from Fund Line 2031-330-360.
second,
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes. For zoning, I move to assign the work order to Butcher and Son, Inc. for the demolition of all structures at 1050 Mohawk Trail, which is parcel number 5103167, and the adjacent vacant parcels 5103018 and 5103169 in an amount not to exceed $7,430 per the quote received from Butcher and Son and paid from Fund Line 2181 130 500 1007.
I would second that.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes. And for our IT department, I move to approve the purchase from Best Buy in the amount of $7,631 for 10 computers to facilitate virtual meetings. And this shall be paid from Fund Line 2272 110 740. And this will also help with our social distancing and to be able to follow the governor's non-public meeting orders. So
Okay, second.
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
yes.
Do the members of the board have any other matters that need our consideration?
the only thing I have is, do we know when the Christmas tree lighting is going to be?
Mm,
I thought that they were talking about, and they're still working, given the health considerations, they're still working on the exact details. But I thought that they were talking about either Friday, the 4th of December or the 5th.
Actually, we were discussing December the 4th and was talking about turning on the lights at around 6 o'clock. But I know there is more detail to follow for what we may or may not be able to do, especially with the new orders coming down.
Okay, but we do think it's going to be on December 4th.
Yes, December 4th, at least turning the lights on at 6, but as far as anything else, any other activities, it may be just as simple as us turning lights on and that would be all.
I think that there has been discussion about any participation being drive-through as opposed to any on-site pedestrian or gathering. But even a stringent order from the governor, I would hope would allow people who are only with their family to drive through. But we will await any developments and will follow whatever orders the governor makes. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yep.
Because of some of the fiscal matters that we have to consider as we approach year end, and in view of some of the special funding and the projects connected to adjustments we're making for health, I think we're going to have a special meeting next week. Is that your understanding, Mr. Weinsheimer?
Yes, we'll need to do a special next week. Let's do, I think we were discussing we would do that at what, 5 o'clock on the 19th?
Yes, Thursday, November 19 at 5 p.m. And the meeting again will be conducted by Zoom.
Correct.
I move that we set a special meeting, issue public notice, and indicate it to be for November 19th, 2020 at 5 p.m.
Second,
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
yes,
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mr. DeLauro.
Yes.
Do you want to indicate in general, Mr. Weinsheimer, on the notice that it'll be dealing with fiscal matters? Is that your primary purpose?
That would be the primary purpose, yes.
And such other matters that may properly come before the board as usual.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else? Any other announcements? Anything else? If not, I move that we adjourn.
Second,
Roll call, Mrs. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes,
Mr. DeLauro.
yes.
thank you all.